Ever wish you had someone to tell you the truth about what it takes to run a successful business and live a fulfilling life? Well, amiguita, you've come to the right place. So grab your favorite cafecito or cocktail, your courage, and let's get to work. I'm Janessa Borges, a therapist, business strategist, mindset coach for entrepreneurs, and a feisty Latina from Miami. And I'm determined to teach you the exact tools you need to stop settling and start kicking some serious derriere. What do you say? Are you in? Then let's get started. Welcome to Latinas Empowering Latinas podcast.
I absolutely love when you guys send in questions, and I have a new one for today. My first newsletter is scheduled to go out tomorrow. I'm looking for some content ideas since it's going to be a weekly newsletter. I have a few questions to hopefully give me some insight into some of the issues my business owning girlies are going through so that I can help. If you could change one thing about your website right now, what would it be? Great question. I'm going to say that for a newsletter, for freebies, for content creation, the most important thing that you need is who is your ICA? What is your niche? Who are you serving? What problem do they have? And how can you help them? That shows you as the expert in the industry and then leads them to you when it's time for them to need your services. That's how I want to start off whenever you're creating any kind of freebie or newsletter. Having that in mind is the first thing. The second thing is you want to offer value. And the third thing is you want to be consistent. And those are usually the three things where I see entrepreneurs miss the mark. That's the first step before we get started. I will be answering as if it were me. I'll come from this place of being an entrepreneur. I'm at a different level than other entrepreneurs. I'm not just starting off. I'm scaling multi-six figures. So it's a little different. But I will share my responses anyway in hopes that it'll give you a little bit of feedback. So the first part is if you can change one thing about your website right now, what would it be? I have somebody that handles the build out of my website. Through the years, I've learned that it is very important for you to also be aware of how to do things, how to find things. Because if you're in a pinch, if that person is sick, if they're unavailable, if you procrastinated or you were inspired and you want to get something out, if you decide that something is glitching and they're not available, you want to be able to at least know how to jump in. Because I do know how to jump in, even though I have somebody that somebody's built on my website. I have somebody who takes care of my landing pages. I have somebody else that helps me with my sales pages. My podcast YouTube producer creates the background, edits them, creates landing pages for each episode. The uploads everything into the platform, YouTube and Libsyn for me. They do the show notes. A lot is being done behind the scenes. For me, I really have to say I don't have 100% involvement. I'm not a complete DIYer. I'm very fortunate that at this point in my business, which I didn't have in the beginning, was that I would have not been able to afford somebody else to work my stuff. In the beginning, I had to use a templated website from a third party that owned, which I didn't know at the time, that essentially owned my URL, owned my website name, and pretty much, even though I was the one giving them the content for my website, they controlled it. They controlled the SEO. When I broke up with them, and I have an entire podcast episode on this dedicated to this, it was a nightmare, and they pretty much contributed to the dismantling of a very successful business that I had grown all by myself in the blink of an eye, and it took me 1.5 years to undo and figure out what they were doing, which was horrible. They pretty much took my website, which essentially was my business online, the way to contact me, the way to schedule everything. And they allowed the contact form that existed there, people to remain under their control. They still had access to my Google business profile. While I was in there editing, I could never understand why it kept changing. Well, it kept changing because I didn't realize that they had access to that profile. In the beginning, one of the biggest problems was not knowing enough about website ownership, how to get started, what platform to use, the difference between going through a company that essentially owns everything you've done versus just somebody who sets it up for you and is turnkey and then gives you back the keys and gives you back the control. I wish I would have known that I should have purchased my own URL because that way I own it. The way that this company that's super unethical does it is they asked me, what do you want your URL to be? And of course, I shared with them what I wanted it to be, and they bought it. They said, we'll do it for you, which essentially was their way of keeping control, and then we'll just charge you a fee for that. I paid for them to do it, and then I paid for the fee of it, and I really wish they would have taken the time. They didn't because they were unethical. It wasn't until I went to switch and started working with my business bestie, Jen. At the time, we had just met each other, and she told me, no, this is yours. Here's the link. Here's where to go. Here's how it works. You buy it, and then you give me access to work on it for you. And when we're done, I will give you all the passwords back and you can have it. That's the first thing. Education about website ownership, fees. If they're going to work with a third party kind of templated business, for them to know what questions to ask, for them to be aware of even little things, like at least I think I would have had a little bit more control had I bought the URL, because then I couldn't even buy it back from them. It's stipulated that you could if they allowed you to. But obviously at that point, they didn't want to lose my business, so they didn't allow me to. I had to go through attorneys and fight to get my website back and released from that. It was a nightmare. I think education about the website piece. So that's question number one. That's if you could change anything about your website right now. Okay, right now, there are some things. I've had multiple websites, different branding, different businesses. I'm at 3 businesses at this moment. My practice website is kind of just stable, doesn't do much. Every once in a while, it'll get updated. You have to kind of go in and update plugins. That's something else I wish that I knew. Does it automatically update? Do I need to go in there and update? How often does it need to be updated? Again, I'm lucky that I have someone that does that behind the scenes, but I think if somebody's DIYing it, that's good to know. And even if you're not DIYing, it's good to know because you can ask the person managing it, hey, have you updated? When was the last time you updated my website platform or update? And then right now, I would say the biggest thing is because I'm creating and generating, because I'm always growing my ideas, my products, my services, my offerings, speaking, retreats, events, SEO. I wish there was almost a way that you can create something and it would be like almost automated. I think what I share with the clients that I coach is it's really important to tap into the SEO, your website, Gmail, that's free advertising, marketing built in over time because Google then reads what it is that you're all about, but there has to be keywords and there's things I don't even know about that I know some of the words like meta titles. And, you have to make sure that it's in order for it to really be beneficial, you have to do a little bit more, like the keywords and the title have to match the meta title, have to be listed on the landing page, have to be backlinked and things. So number one, for people to know that, I would educate them on that. And number two, I would also love to find a way, if it's possible, to for it to be automated or to teach me how to be able to, again, I'm thinking of you as DIY or do for me, right? Either to teach me how to do it for my landing pages, but at this point I have so many landing pages and I have so many podcast episodes. And again, I'm aware in order to really for it to be extra beneficial with search engine optimization, it has to be done correctly and optimized. To teach them how to optimize and why it's important. And it's not just optimizing the website in general, it's optimizing to the level that it would be extra beneficial and that it's also per landing page, not necessarily the website as a whole. That is my answer to what I would change about my website before and right now. Hope this helped. Thank you so much for joining me today. And listen, if you're a Latina with big dreams of building a multi-6-figure business and you're looking for a community to expand your reach, strategize, accountability, weekly live events, group coaching with me, inspiration, motivation, collaboration, and so much more, head over to janessaborges.com/Latinas to join the membership now. Until next time, amiguita.